Hello and welcome to this webinar, which is a crash course in artificial intelligence breakthroughs aimed at accountants and bookkeepers. 2023 has been a very interesting year when it comes to artificial intelligence, which is amazing when you think that artificial intelligence was invented way back in the 1950s. That's when work started on it at various American universities, and it's been developing ever since. But 2023 has been the year when it's broken through and done some amazing things. There are limitations on this, as we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, 2023 has definitely been a year when artificial intelligence has just been mind-blowing. It's blown many of our minds. And that's an interesting point I should just quickly mention, which is if you're watching this, say, mid-2025 in the future, for me, then you may well find that some of this stuff has been superseded because this technology is moving very, very quickly. So what is the big new thing? And it's something called generative AI, which means it's artificial intelligence that can make new things, which sounds amazing. I mean, I've all seen things on TV or maybe on the internet where it's created fantastic artworks, or it's written, Harry Potter stories or things like this. But it's actually better to say that this new generative AI synthesizes from existing material. And how it does this is with the writing, at least with the ChatGPT side of things. It has these things called large language models, LLMs. And these are basically massive databases of web content, novels, you name it. And there's various LLMs, and they're all linked together in various clever ways too. And the end result is that these things can produce copy, and they can talk back to us in a way that feels to us spookily human. But what's actually happening is it's a kind of trick that these things aren't artificially intelligent, by the way. There's no intelligence involved here. This is just one step further in the same kind of machine learning technology that's been around for quite a while. It just so happens that these breakthroughs, which are relatively small on a scale of machine learning breakthroughs full stop, but they happen to produce something which we humans find very impressive and very clever. But this machine learning has been around for a long time. I think several decades since the actual principles behind the breakthroughs this year were invented. The best way of thinking about ChatGPT when it generates copy and talks to us and talks like a human is that it's a little bit like predictive text on your phone, and it's actually very similar to that. If you recall, on your iPhone, when you're tapping away at a text message, it will suggest the next word for you, and you can tap that sometimes. People generally don't, but you could if you wanted to tap that. And if there was a meme, there was a game about 2-3 years ago where you could just keep tapping the predictive text button on your phone, and it would create sentences, absurd, weird sentences, but they were grammatically correct and they would make sense. Well, ChatGPT is essentially very similar to that. It's not very far beyond, really. I mean, obviously, technologically, it's a fantastic achievement, but really, in terms of how it works, all it's doing is predicting what comes next using its very, very large language model of the internet. And it's essentially, if you ask a question, it answers the question by thinking what is most likely to be the answer based on its knowledge. The two technologies out there at the moment being used most in terms of generative AI for copy and writing are ChatGPT, which is by a company called OpenAI, but it's mostly known through Microsoft products. So they're rolling it out on Copilot, which is an extension of Microsoft Office products, but it's also in Bing search engine and the Edge web browser as well. It's built into both those two things. But Google also has Bard, which you access through its search engine. And which is better between ChatGPT and Bard? Well, it's basically a neck and neck race. ChatGPT's probably got the lead at the moment. It's certainly got the headlines, I think, and people thinking and inquiring about it. And Google Bard's perhaps a little bit behind in terms of the hype, at least. But for the demo today, we're going to be using a subscription to ChatGPT and OpenAI. This costs £20 a month. But we're doing this so that we can see the up-and-coming features, because generally speaking, the features that appear in the paid package would invariably roll down into the free package after a couple of months. So by the time you're watching this, you may well find that the things I'm talking about today and the tools I'm using within ChatGPT are now freely available. In fact, I'm almost certain that will be the case. But for this demo, we're using this subscription. So it's £20 a month, and to be honest with you, £20 a month is not a huge amount of money if you're in a business, and I would certainly consider perhaps paying up for the subscription so you can get these new features and remain at that cutting edge, because that's really where all the kind of the competitive advantage, I think, is going to be presented is staying at that cutting edge of the generative AI technology. Okay, so let's start the demo. The first thing we have to do is select ChatGPT-4 up here in the top left-hand corner. ChatGPT-4 is where the cutting-edge features are going to be found, some of which we're going to use today. But basically ChatGPT 3.5 is one that you're going to find everywhere, but ChatGPT-4 is the one which comes as part of this paid-for subscription. So we click that, and the first thing we're going to do is take a look at a bank statement, an Ulster bank statement. This is a genuine business bank statement, although of course we've anonymised all the details. We've changed, this is one we use in product development here at Auto Entry, but I've changed all the details around, so there's nothing of the original stuff there, but it's the same structure and the same kind of information that you would find. It's supposedly for a Frank's sandwich bar based in the same building in which Auto Entry is based in Dublin. So we tell it to upload that, and then we say analyse this document. Send that to ChatGPT. ChatGPT uploads the file, has a bit of a think about it, and one thing we're going to have a lot of in this demo, unfortunately, is me filling in time like this because ChatGPT can be quite slow, even though this is a paid-for service. And then it tells us the basic information about that it's discovered from the statement, including what it is, how long it is. But we can do other things. We can say to it, when were wages paid and to whom? So now it's going to go back into this document and have a look at it, and it's going to analyse it. It's going to pull out the information we've just asked in plain language. We haven't got to do Control F to find information. We haven't got to even open the document. We can ask it to whom and when wages were paid, and it goes through. And in these quote marks, you can see it's quoting, it's telling us where it's found this information. And it's pulling out all the dates and names when wages were paid, which appears to be weekly in this instance. And then it tells us under what way they were entered. Kevin's wages, so we guess that somebody called Kevin handles the wages for this particular business. Okay, let's try something else. Let's say Google the recent changes to national insurance and summarise them for me. So as I'm writing this, we're about 2 months, I think 1 month away from recent the November 2023 mini budget announcement, when a couple of national insurance changes were announced. And here it is, it's gone off, it's Googled it, and it's now summarising for me the changes that are coming about. And if you notice here, it's even picked up on the changes to Class 4 and Class 2 NICs as well, which a lot of people in the media missed, I think, focusing on the other kind of changes. And it's a fairly good summary. It's put it into a numbered list for us, and it summarises it fairly well. Okay, so you're thinking, well, that's fairly clever, that's fairly good, but I can get that by Googling, I can Google and use my own intelligence. Okay, how about this? Turn this summary into a short email that I can send to clients, including an attention-grabbing subject line. Now, I know several people listening to this webinar right now might not have English as a first language. They might not be very confident perhaps in their written English. And this is kind of where ChatGPT becomes a superstar, because it is writing a grammatically correct email with, as we requested, a nice punchy subject line, and it's summarising all the information. Now, you can imagine how this could be useful in practice, in your work you do every day. Something changes, You can ask ChatGPT to summarize it and turn all this into an email. Of course, you haven't got to just simply copy and paste all this. You could take this and read through it and edit it yourself, or take out things you don't want to go in there, or change a few things around. But it's a good starting point. And like I said, for somebody whose English skills aren't so great, it's just amazing. But that's not all. We can do something else. We can say, turn this into a short, funny social media post with emojis. Now, this is assuming you have a social account. You have social accounts, and you can say this. So it says, okay, and here it goes. So it's turning it into a pithy, clever social media post that you can now just cut and paste, complete with emojis, and put onto your X/Twitter account, or Facebook, or even LinkedIn, I guess, if you take out the emojis. And you can kind of see how this summarizing ability, the ability has to summarize and create a kind of new copy based on that, can be incredibly useful for accountants. If you're wondering about copyright, well, there isn't any. You can use the copy however you want to, what's generated here. So you can just literally just copy and then paste it into where you want it to go. Now, one interesting thing about ChatGPT is that it considers programming languages to be the same as the English language, or indeed French or German. All it's seeing is words and the relationship between words. And because of this, it understands Excel formulas as well. So we can say to it, create an Excel formula to work out the compound depreciation of an asset in cell A1. The depreciation will be 5% each year, and the formula should output values for 15 years. So here we go. It's telling us how to create a formula and a spreadsheet that will do this for us. Now again, you could say, well, I can Google this. I can, or if you don't know, you know it, of course. I can Google this and I can go off and find out quite easily. But what you'd probably find is something which is similar to what you want, but not quite the same, not exactly what you want. But what we're getting here is not only exactly what we want, but we're being told exactly how to do it in instructions, step-by-step instructions. And that, I think, is a quite amazing thing. It can work the other way around too. So this one I'm going to have to copy and paste because I'm not going to type this one out. But we can say, explain the meaning of this formula. So again, we'll send it off to ChatGPT. You can take a look. And it's now telling us it's the other way around. It's used to calculate the multi-payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. It's telling us what each component within the formula actually means. So you can see how this could be very, very useful for those new to Excel, perhaps, or even those experienced in Excel. You can run formulas through this, and you can do some quite amazing things. Okay, now this one I think has been mentioned a few times. It's probably the most mind-blowing thing you can do with ChatGPT. You can say to it, create a 3-year business plan for, let's say, a UK hairdresser. And here we go. It goes off and creates a 3-year business plan for a hairdresser. Now, again, we don't have to just simply copy and paste this. In fact, what you probably want to do here is perhaps a good way of working is to treat this as a template. So it's now running through the various components you would normally find within a business plan, and it's applying them to hairdressers specifically. It's telling us to, look out for the services offered, and then it's working out a financial plan. And you can take this and copy and paste it into your document and use it as a template, and you can edit and expand upon it however you want to. And of course, this will work for any kind of business that you might have. I used hairdressing as simply one that sprang to mind. But yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing. Now, ChatGPT version 4 can not only be used to ask questions and generate copy in that way, you can even create your own chatbots. Click on Explore here, and then we can create a GPT. Now, I'm sure you might be one step ahead of me here, but you can see how powerful this can be. This is giving us a glimpse into maybe 1 or 2 years from now, where we may be able to make chat GPT bots for ourselves, use this file function here or some other way. There is an API, by the way, which means that you can connect it up to various online databases. But if we could create a chat GPT bot that connects to accounting data within our accounting software, then we can create something that will be a first line for clients to access and approach on a daily basis, and that will give them coherent answers about their very own finances. But what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to create a search bot, which a GPT chatbot, which goes off and finds answers from the HMRC website. And my exact phrase I'm going to use here is, you will search the Gov.uk website to find the answers to questions. Do not use other websites or other sources of information. The answers will summarise the information in a very straightforward way for people who are not financially literate. So we're making a new chatbot, a new specific chatbot here that we could feasibly deploy within your business on your website. We click go. It takes a while. This is a longer process because this is obviously a little bit more complicated, but it's building this GPT for us, this new chatbot, which we can deploy anywhere. And in fact, one thing that they've been mooting actually at OpenAI is that people can even sell these chatbots. So you can generate them like you would generate a program, and then you could sell it, or you could sell access to it. You know, people have to pay like £1 to access it. I don't know how it would work. So now we've got our new chatbot, we can think of kind of questions that people might ask, perhaps, who don't know much about this kind of thing. So one question could be, what do company directors need to know about how they are taxed? Let's ask it that one. Now, it says doing research with Bing here, and my best thought is that it's finding ways to phrase the search query. It is only searching Gov.uk, but I think it uses Bing to kind of find ways to phrase the search in the first place, so it knows it's just like when you go to Google, part of the skill is knowing how to phrase your search so you get the best results. I think it uses Bing to kind of hone its results. So you can see what it's doing here. It's searching Gov.uk for the various answers here. I specified Gov.uk, by the way, because as far as I know, there isn't really an HMRC dedicated website. It's all part and parcel of Gov.uk. So we have to open it up to the entire Gov.uk website, which it's not no trouble doing that. It's not a difficult thing. It's not a bad thing to do, because as we probably know, if you have to do research on Gov.uk, you'll find that the information does tend to be scrambled across the entire site, really. And it can be everywhere. It can be under various headings, HMRC's own headings, or it could be under various other headings. Anyway, it's having a good search. It's looking through the Gov.uk website and preparing an answer for us, all being well. Give it a few minutes. Sometimes it can get stuck, I've got to say this. And one thing, you may have noticed that I've been cutting between various searches. Oh, here it is. And it gives us the answer. All of this based on the official information at Gov.uk, not websites that you might stumble across on the internet which could be inaccurate, not what some blog that some guy's written that he reckons is the truth. This is all coming from Gov.uk, and it's all being summarised and rewritten by ChatGPT, and it's telling us what the tax implications are. Let's try another one. What's the VAT rate on flapjacks? Very famous case, of course, of trying to work out when you're trying to find VAT rates on food. And again, it does the same thing. I think it goes after Bing to try and find a way of phrasing this search, and then it will search the Gov.uk website to try and find an answer for us. As I was saying a moment ago, you may notice I've been cutting between various search queries, because I have found that ChatGPT can be a little bit unreliable. Sometimes it just refuses to do things, it locks up. It's still new technology. Anyway, here we are, we've got the answer. Zero rated, which I think we all knew, although certain kinds of flapjacks, depending on where they're eaten and what they're made of, and as I'm sure we all know, flapjacks are a contentious issue in the world of that. But we have the answer that's right there. And so that concludes our demo of ChatGPT. I've given some demonstrations today of things that I thought were interesting, but as I'm sure you've realised by now, one of the key things about ChatGPT, and it's going to be a key thing moving forward really, is that the limitation really is our own imaginations, and we've got to try and find ways to use this. I mean, ChatGPT could be described as a classic situation where you've got a solution trying to find a problem, but in this instance, well, it turns out we can actually find problems quite easily for it to fix and to try and solve and make life easier for us. Again, it's just going to be your imagination in finding ways to make use of it, or indeed other people telling you how to make use of it. What's going to happen over the coming years almost certainly will be that businesses, software manufacturers are going to start bringing it into their products in various ways. Again, they are searching for the problems that this technology can solve, and I'm sure you might have heard about Sage, under which auto entry is one of the brands. But Sage has a new technology called Inbox, which again is deploying this to try and link the email inbox to the ledger. So, for example, if an invoice comes in, and it'll understand and cleverly link it and assign tasks based on it, all automatically. It's a very, very interesting technology. It's worthwhile mentioning some of the downsides with any kind of generative AI, which is, the first one is that it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's not actually intelligent. Don't believe it is. It has no idea what right or wrong is. All it knows is what's most likely to be correct. And like I mentioned earlier, it's trained by humans, and sometimes the humans don't know what's correct. A classic example of this is some researchers asked ChatGPT to write poetry and asked it to write complicated poetry, and it made a mess of it because all it knows is what it's been trained in, and the humans who were verifying its results during this training process didn't know these complicated poetry forms. So ChatGPT learned how to cheat. It learned how to just send out something that looked like a poem, and the people who were marking it and training it said, yeah, that's good, that's close enough, that's great. So ChatGPT didn't know any better. I think the other thing you've got to be careful of, and I think you already know about this because it's been mentioned quite a bit, is that ChatGPT can hallucinate, which is to say, this is the official term, it can just say the completely incorrect. They can make things up. Again, it's very interested ultimately in pleasing the human and giving a response that sounds right. A good example of this is during my testing, I uploaded a science fiction novel. I forget which one, but I asked it, I said, read this book, and it said, I've read it. And I said to it, please tell me what happened when the aliens invaded London. And it said, oh, when the aliens invaded London, it was fantastic because that was a bit where the hero really showed his mettle. But the problem was that nowhere in the book had aliens invaded London. So it was just making up solutions, making up answers for me because it wanted to please me, because again, its goal ultimately is to provide things which sound correct, or which its human trainers over many years have marked as being correct. So that is a very big downside of ChatGPT, which is really why you almost can't trust it. It's very much like having a junior employee, somebody who's just joined the firm, perhaps who's a little bit on the young side, maybe straight out of college. Well, you want to be checking what they do, really. You're not going to let them go straight out to clients and to be client-facing on day one. You want to check and make sure their work's okay until you can learn to trust it. And I think that's very much the case with ChatGPT. If you're going to deploy it in your business, you have to have your wits about you. You've got to know its limitations. And I think you've got to realise that it can make mistakes, and it will make mistakes, and you have to have that knowledge, really. A good example was that example earlier I gave where ChatGPT searched for national insurance changes. Well, you going into that, you should really have that knowledge. Of course, this is part of the role of being an accountant or bookkeeper, is to keep on top of this kind of thing. So you're reading that with critical eyes, you're making sure it's correct, but its ability, ChatGPT's ability to summarise it in a useful form, well, that's where you're kind of getting the value, really. And of course, like I said, you can always edit these things anyway. So that's been our crash course in ChatGPT. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, if you're listening to this in 2025 or 2026, then do bear in mind that things might have changed. It's a very rapidly advancing technology, and the technology I've shown you today, like I said, really is at the kind of cutting edge beta stage. This isn't, the technology is only just ready for rolling out to wide scale use. So do keep your eye on it. I would say stay curious, stay interested in this, keep looking at it, consult your chartered body, your membership organisation. They are saying some fantastic things about this kind of technology. But yeah, keep an eye on it, keep curious, keep learning about it, and perhaps the final piece of advice I would give you is to play with it. Like I said, get that £20 subscription, play around with it, have a play, try your own creativity, try some things I've mentioned today, and just see if you can find ways to make it work for you, and just play, really. We all say it's about technology, don't we? But, you're going to learn a lot by just basically messing around, in this instance, spending an hour just messing around and playing around with it.